Yes.
But that changed your life, that experience when your parents returned, other than the fact they knew they couldn't trust you with a bank account. It really changed your life and what happened to your entire future.
It did. They came back, and they were different parents from what I, left them, that they left me at, I guess. They started painting these exciting pictures of what the West is like. That's the way we call it, the West. And it was so exciting to me and my sister. And we were determined in our minds then, 82, 83, that we were going to get out of China. Even though China was changing and uplifting, there was still a lot of restrictions and a lot of things you could never imagine do. Whereas based on what my parents were saying, you can be anything you want to be in a Western country, in a Western developed country. So that was the seed that was planted back then.
We understand you and I discussed this before, and they kind of came in and they closed the doors and shut the windows and said, we want to tell you something. What did you think when your parents set you down and said, we want to tell you this story about what our adventures outside this country? What do you think you and your sister thought and said at the time?
Well, first we thought we got in trouble again.
They're going to get rid of us now.
Right. But it was really the sparkles in my mom's eyes, the tone of voice my dad's that had. I've never seen that kind of excitement. And they were so determined. They painted all these pictures, not just pictures, but specific people they met. And they had actually, for me, because I was the older one, they found a Scottish lady was to be my pen pal, a Japanese girl, and that's through my school, and an American girl. So I had 3 different pen pals as a result of them coming back from their first trips abroad.
Well, that's interesting. So did you learn a lot through your pen pals and the stories you exchanged in your communications?
I did. It was wonderful for me to have the Japanese girl in Osaka and a Scottish lady in Germany, living in Germany, and my American friend who became my best friend here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to talk to you about your English skills. One of the things, and I lived in Japan for 5 years, and I did speak Japanese at the time fluently. I no longer do because I haven't had many friends to speak it with.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
How did you learn and acquired such great, not only do you speak English impeccably, but your vernacular is perfect. I always notice that about you, and I'm so impressed by that, how you've picked up the slang and the nuances and everything. And learning a language can be very complicated, depending where you live, your dialect, those kind of things. How did you master English so well?
I think my parents had a lot to do with it. Ever since when I turned 7, I remember my parents said, you're going to learn a foreign language. And, they always played radio stations or tapes of foreign languages. My mom speaks 5. My dad speaks 3 foreign languages. So, so they said, you're going to pick a language. And English sounded good to me. So I said, I'll pick English. And so we always, every day, listen to foreign language radio programs every day. We listen to BBC. We listen to Voice of America together as a family. And when I was 11, I was very lucky to be picked as one of the, I think it was a dozen kids in Beijing, to be tutored by someone who just came back from the UK. Again, he grew up in the UK. He's Chinese. He grew up in the UK and went to school in the UK and decided to go back to China. So I was very, very lucky, and I was in that very special program for 3 years. And he worked on not grammar. He didn't work on vocabulary. He just worked on dialoguing, getting the kids involved, and we watched cartoons together. It was great. It was the best learning I had. So I had an incredible education because my parents had the foresight to prepare me for it. And perhaps there's a little bit of gene in there as well, but because both my parents speak so many languages.
Let's talk about Tiananmen Square. I understand that you and your family were at Tiananmen Square.
Not my parents, yeah.
Is everybody familiar with Tiananmen Square? It was really when the young people and the students and the college students in China really stood up against the government. Because I think freedom had been coming, and then it was suppressed again. I believe that tended to be the tenor of the time. What was your experience at Tiananmen Square?
I was a million college students there. I remember everything. And it's changed everything. How I look at life, how I live life, how I am. You know, being amongst millions of people, really. Marching to the square, staying on the square, being part of the hunger strike, and then later on being crushed. It really, it's like get your hope high, really, really high, and you really enjoy the camaraderie. You really think you're so idealistic, and you said something is going to change, something's going to happen. And then when that crush on you, it's unbelievable feeling. I don't know how to describe it. I really don't know how to describe it other than it's an incredible experience. I don't wish it on anybody, on any country, on any people, but I would never just hide it and bury it.
That's incredible. I mean, imagine this woman has lived so much of history, and her journey is absolutely amazing. That's why I thought, Rose, you needed to hear Rose's story. Rose, let's talk about when you came to this country. And I love this story about, number one, everything you brought with you, which is very different from an American girl, how she would travel, but where you went to college. So your parents, and you applied for college here, and what made you decide to go to that particular university?
I went to University of Houston because I got a full scholarship. It was an economic decision. I was accepted by half a dozen colleges and universities across North America. So, and UH, I have extended families in Houston. So I became a Houstonian, and very proudly still be. Yeah. Howdy.
Go Texas. Go Texas.
You're back to your questions.
When you packed up and came back.
How did I pack? Well, I thought I would never come back to China. This was right after 1989. I had 2 huge suitcases, and they weren't even very good quality suitcases, but they were the biggest I can find. One case was mostly all my books. I couldn't bear leaving any of my books, just leave them behind. The other has the best of my clothes. That was it. That was my worldly possession, and my parents had their life savings of $4,000 in cash, and that was all I had.
And where did you hide the cash?
Oh my God, you're not making me say that.
Honey, my mother did the same thing to me, so dish the dirt.
My mom sold this little pouch in my underpants.
So what happened when you came in through customs into the U.S.?
Oh my gosh. Well, I had to change plane in San Francisco and to catch a later flight to Houston, Continental flight. I remember that vividly. And when I got to the check-in counter, there was this ground agent that looked very stern to me and said, "Your luggage is overweight. You must take out some stuff." And here, 2 plastic bags. And one was completely wrapped up, my suitcase. I said, I'm not going to mess with that. The other one was half busted open already because of all the books. And he said, look how many books you have. You got to take some of that out. That's why it's overweight. So I had to scramble to get books out and, reweigh it. And I don't remember how many books I had to take out. But his 2 little bags didn't hold them because they were too heavy. But once I finally got back, under the weight, and I said, I'll take this on with me, he said, $100 fine. That's when I almost cried. Oh, I didn't cry. I couldn't believe it. I said, you make me take all of this out. But I didn't have all that ability to express myself. I just
Boy, today I'd like to see him tell you that.
I just quietly turned over and had to really hide myself and open up my zipper and find $100 for him. I hated that. And that was a defining moment for me.
I think you learned a moment of strength, but I think what's so telling is your important possession was your books. Yes. That was your most important possession, was books. And something we take for granted here. I mean, I'd just be throwing the books out. Here, take them. I'd walk over to strangers, take my books. But for you, I think you would have given up your clothes over the books. And I think that says a lot of defining of who Rose Wang is. And I think that that's so important.